The cake was chocolate, his favorite. It sat in the center of the table, a beacon of joy in the dimly lit room. 8 flickering candles cast dancing shadows on the kitchen wall, their light creating an almost magical atmosphere. It was Billy's 8th birthday, and the air buzzed with joy and the sweet scent of vanilla. Laughter echoed through the room, mingling with the soft hum of birthday songs. His mom, usually radiating warmth, suddenly seemed pale, her smile strained. She glanced around nervously, as if expecting something to happen. As Billy leaned in to blow out the candles, the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. The sudden change was jarring, turning the joyous occasion into something ominous. A gasp escaped his mother's lips. It was sharp and filled with a fear that Billy had never heard before. It wasn't a gasp of surprise, but of pure terror. Her eyes widened, reflecting the flickering candlelight, now the only source of illumination. That night, the lights stayed on, every lamp, every bulb, casting a harsh, unyielding light to keep the darkness at bay. His mother sat by his bed, her eyes wide and distant. She seemed lost in thought, her mind wandering to places Billy couldn't follow. She spoke in hushed tones about the darkness, about things unseen lurking just beyond the light. Her voice trembled, betraying her fear. Billy, his young mind struggling to understand, clung to her hand, his own heart pounding a fearful rhythm. He had never seen his mother so scared. His mother, the strongest person he knew, was afraid of the dark. It was a revelation that shook him to his core. His 8th birthday marked the end of his childhood. The innocence of his youth was replaced by a new, unsettling awareness. The darkness that night wasn't the comforting blanket of his youth. It was thick, oppressive, and filled with unseen threats. It was an entity, alive and hungry. It seemed to watch him, waiting for the moment when the light would fail. The shadows in the room stretched and twisted, taking on menacing forms in his young mind. They seemed to move with a life of their own. His mother's fear was contagious, seeping into him, wrapping around him like a cold, damp shroud. The darkness had become a living nightmare. Days turned into weeks, and the lights remained on. The passage of time seemed to blur, each day blending into the next, marked only by the relentless ticking of the clock. Billy's mother, once full of life, was now a prisoner of daylight. The sunlight that once brought her joy now seemed to mock her, casting long shadows that mirrored the darkness within her. She barely slept, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows, her hand never far from his. The nights were the worst, filled with restless tossing and turning, haunted by memories she couldn't escape. He overheard hushed phone calls, whispers of therapists and trauma. The words were foreign to him, but the tone was unmistakable: concern, fear, and a desperate search for answers. His father, a name rarely spoken, was the source of her fear, a shadowy figure representing pain and anger. His presence lingered like a ghost, a constant reminder of the past. Billy only had fragmented memories of his father, a booming voice, a towering presence. The memories were like shards of glass, sharp and painful, cutting into his consciousness, a darkness that clung to him like smoke. It was an ever-present fog, clouding his thoughts and filling his dreams with dread. His mother never spoke about him directly, but Billy pieced together the story from overheard conversations and his own fragmented memories. Each piece was a clue, a part of a puzzle he was desperate to solve. His father had been a man of violence, his anger erupting like a storm. The fury was unpredictable, striking without warning, and leaving destruction in its wake. The darkness, for his mother, was a reminder of that violence, a place where the monster still lurked. It was a constant threat, a shadow that never truly disappeared. His mother's fear was a tangible thing. It was in her eyes, in the way she moved, in the way she held him close as if he were her only anchor in a stormy sea. It filled their small apartment, suffocating him. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with unspoken fears and unresolved pain. He loved his mother, wanted desperately to understand her terror, but it was like trying to hold smoke. The more he tried to grasp it, the more it slipped through his fingers. The fear was elusive, ever-shifting, and it terrified him. It was a living thing, a shadow that danced on the walls, always just out of reach, always watching. Their lives became a bizarre dance with darkness, a constant struggle to keep the shadows at bay. Blackout curtains covered every window, ensuring perpetual daylight inside their home. The outside world was a distant memory, a place they no longer dared to venture. Billy did his homework under the harsh glare of the kitchen lights, the shadows under his eyes a constant reminder of their abnormal existence. The artificial light was relentless, never allowing them a moment of true rest. Sleep, when it came, was fitful, punctuated by his mother's nightmares and the constant hum of electricity powering their sanctuary of light. The nights were long and restless, filled with the echoes of their fears. There were incidents, moments that etched themselves into Billy's memory, moments that would haunt him for years to come. The time the fuse blew, plunging their apartment into darkness. The sudden loss of light was like a punch to the gut, a reminder of the fragility of their sanctuary. His mother's scream, the frantic scramble for candles, her whimpers echoing in the darkness until the lights flickered back on. The fear in her eyes was something Billy would never forget. Or the time they went to the grocery store at dusk, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. It was a rare outing, a brief moment of normalcy in their otherwise cloistered lives. His mother, her hand clutching his so tightly it hurt, rushing them through the aisles, her eyes darting around in fear. The outside world was a place of danger, a place they could not trust. His friends stopped coming over. The isolation was suffocating, a constant reminder of their difference. Their parents whispered about his mother, their concerned glances making him shrink further into himself. The whispers were like a constant hum, always present, always judging. He became known as the boy who was afraid of the dark, a cruel irony that made his stomach clench. The label was a burden, a weight he carried with him every day. He wasn't afraid of the dark itself. The darkness was just an absence of light, a neutral space. He was afraid of what lurked within it, the fear that consumed his mother, the fear that threatened to swallow him whole. It was the unknown, the unseen, that truly terrified him.